How's it going, everybody? It's Salty Trico, and today we're going to be talking about Pokémon Home, which is, the big exciting thing in the Pokemon community now. Now, Pokemon Home is coming out in, oh crap, I think like 2 days, 3 days, I actually don't remember the due date. Man, I'm way behind on the time, so I've been out, whatever. So, today we're going to be talking about the biggest winners and losers of Pokemon Home, and to lay down the ground rules so I don't get comments about it, we are only going to be talking about the Pokemon who are directly returning in Pokemon Home as of the update. So while there are some new move pool additions like Toxapex is getting Scald back, we will not be talking about that because they're already in the game and they deserve, honestly, their own video, because I want to get all this kind of in one concise video, and then maybe if this video does well, if you guys want to see more, we can talk about the move pool additions for the existing Pokemon and move pool additions for Pokemon that aren't actually looking to return in Pokemon Home, because for some reason, for Pokemon like Machamp, they gave it Mach Punch, even though I don't think it's in the game. Is it in the game? Is Machamp in the game right now? Machamp, no, it is not in the game. So yes, for some Pokemon like Machamp, they updated the move pool, but it's not in the game, and they're not bringing it back in Pokemon Home, so potentially DLC additions. We can talk about that in a different video too, but for now we're only going to be talking about Pokemon that are directly returning in Pokemon Home. Also, this is a winners and losers video, so we're not going to be examining directly their competitive what tier they're going to be in. This isn't a tier list, we're just going to be talking about which Pokemon got the most and which Pokemon got the least. This has actually been updated since when I originally made this, and I believe I've made all the changes required to make it as updated as possible, but if something is off, I apologize, just put it down in the comments, I'll pin your comment or something. But let's get started. The first Pokemon I have on the list is Alolan Dugtrio, who's coming back, and Dugtrio, this generation, got Swords Dance, which is really good for it, because, I mean, Dugtrio is, honestly, I forgot this Pokemon was this fast, even the Alolan form, which I think is 10 less base speed than the regular Cantonian form. So it's still a really fast attacker, and I mean, they buffed Dugtrio's attack in I think Gen 7. They give it 100 attack, which is, honestly, for how fast it is, that's not that bad. So this Pokemon is actually looking to be a solid, like, lower tier Pokemon, maybe like PU. But, especially with Terrestrialization now, if this Pokemon gets up an SD, and especially if you have Sand up, because Sand Force is really strong. I highly doubt you're going to be running Sand in the lower tiers. Honestly, I don't see a way to be running Sand at all in most tiers, because Sun and Rain are so strong, and Tyranitar is so bad right now. But SD is really good for this Pokemon. They also give it Rock Blast, so it has a more accurate alternative to Stone Edge, which is nice. And of course, it always has Sucker Punch, so if something outspeeds it, maybe even if you want to run Terra Dark, you can get the stab boost on Sucker Punch too, and just blow past things, because, I mean, at +2, you're 299 is not bad attack. And this is with Jolly too, so with an SD, you're pushing like, what, 600 attack? That's pretty damn strong, especially for a lower tier Pokemon. So this Pokemon could be very scary if you get a chance to set up in the lower tiers. So, if you're looking for a big, strong, heavy hitter, Dugtrio Alola is actually looking pretty damn good. Moving on to Mewtwo. Mewtwo is eating fucking good in this generation. Holy shit. So, it carries over Nasty Plot, all this good stuff that it was getting before, but it now has Earth Power, and Earth Power, if you do not know, is extremely good coverage for a Psychic type, especially in combination with Fire Blast. So this Pokemon now has options to hit a shit ton of Steel types for super effective damage. Mostly what Mewtwo's doing, though, in Ubers is just trying to plow things down with Psystrike. And previously, for Steel type coverage, it had to run like Focus Blast or Aura Sphere, and Focus Blast is obviously very inaccurate as Focus Miss, and then Aura Sphere is weak as hell. So having Earth Power is definitely a better alternative to what it had to run for Steel types previously. Obviously, it still had Fire Blast for those, but once again, Fire Blast, you really want to run it over Flamethrower for the additional power. And it's not the most fantastic accuracy on the planet. Plus, just having Earth Power is definitely a good option for Mewtwo, because Fire Blast doesn't always hit all the Steel types it wants to hit, and Earth Power is just a significantly, it's definitely an upgrade over Aura Sphere and Focus Blast, because it doesn't have the accuracy of Focus Blast, and it doesn't have the weak power of Aura Sphere. So Mewtwo definitely appreciates that upgrade. And moving on, we have Slowking Galar. Now this Pokemon was definitely saved by the bell last minute, because even though Showdown says it doesn't, it is getting Scald back this generation. So that is definitely a very useful tool for Slowking to just throw out Scalds and just pray he gets a burn. And Slowking, the biggest upgrades it got is, it gets, I'm not sure if it gets T-Spikes now, or if that was previously on there. Just so you know, also, the spreadsheet of what the Pokemon are getting getting removed, I will have it as the first link in the description. So if you want to check it out on your own, you definitely can. So, I have T-Spikes. I'm pretty sure it gets this new from Pokemon Home, which obviously T-Spikes are very powerful, and having a T-Spiker which isn't Glimmora could be useful for more balanced style teams. I feel like with a bunch of the new Pokemon returning, like Heatran and them, balance will start to see a rise, because there will actually be, you know, useful Pokemon to check all the ridiculous threats. So, T-Spikes, definitely useful to have on a Pokemon that isn't Glimmora, which is typically delegated to Hyper Offense teams. And it also gets, definitely the biggest addition it gets is Chilly Reception, because now it practically has Teleport, which is obviously fantastic. Unfortunately, you can't run that on what it used to run last generation, which is the AV set, but I mean, you still get to run leftovers like Regen, plus you have the option for Defensive Terra. So, Slowking, I'm not sure how it'll face too well in the current meta, because there are a ton of ground types. There are a lot of ghost types that can hit it super effectively. There are a lot of fighting types though, and obviously Slowking matches up very well to those. So, we'll just have to see. Moving on, we have Groudon, who is also eating extremely well because he got Spikes and Will-O-Wisp. He also got high horsepower, but I mean, I don't think Rillaboom is used very much in OU, so we'll see. Or in Ubers, my bad. So, Groudon is now a hazard machine because it can lay up a couple layer of spikes, can lay up on stealth rocks, and it can cripple opposing Pokemon with Will-O-Wisp. As always, it has it's very strong ground coverage, which you don't really need a run investment for this Pokemon to hit hard. I mean, this thing has 150 base attack. I mean, Groudon's obviously going to be staying at Ubers, but potential new hazard machine for Ubers? Maybe new hazard Uber guy? Better than Deoxys Speed? Quadruple exclamation point question mark? Shocked face emoji? That's going in the thumbnail. So, do I have anything else to say for Groudon? I don't think I do. I don't think it got anything particularly interesting other than Spikes, but I mean, Spikes is a pretty significant addition to a Pokemon's move pool, especially when that Pokemon is Groudon, which has stats like these. So, moving on to another Uber, which I think Rayquaza is kind of a side grade. Which actually, let me check the spreadsheet for a second. I want to see if it truly lost us. That's not a type. Rayquaza. Yes, it still does not get me great. Okay, so Rayquaza got a sort of a side grade. I do have an category set aside for side grades, but honestly, even with losing V-Create, Rayquaza is still getting the shit buffed out of it because it has, simply because of Terra, right? Because you get up 1 SD, and then you have your +2 ridiculously strong priority, extreme speed, and then you can Terra Normal. This mon is basically Dragonite on crack, right? Plus, this generation it got Wild Charge, so it has a move to hit like Kyogre, which is returning as well. It also gets U-Turn, so in case you want to run a Choice Band set, now you have U-Turn on this mon, which is ridiculously strong. As always, you have coverage like Earthquake. You still have what's it called? You still have Dragon Ascend. So, like, this guy's just such a nuke. Like, it's practically just Dragonite, but instead of Dragonite being able to run Dragon Dance, you have fucking Sword Stance instead, so instead of boosting your attack +1, you're boosting it +2, and you have 150 base attack. So, I mean, I think Rayquaza is going to be ridiculously good this generation at Ubers. I don't usually play much Ubers, but, I mean, Rayquaza is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, probably top 5, maybe top 3. Maybe I'll, play a little bit of Ubers. Fuck around with Rayquaza a little bit, because I love this Pokemon. And now that it has just the option to terrestrialize, this Pokemon becomes so much more of a threat. Moving on to Arceus. Arceus got so much shit this generation that I had to make 2 Pokemon just to talk about a lot. So, 1, it gets Dragon Dance, which makes pretty much every set except for E-Killer, like, ridiculously strong. Also, the fact that E-Killer can now terrestrialize, like, like, come on, man. It'll be interesting to see how Judgment works this generation with terrestrialization, but it gets Dragon Dance, which now for especially because it gets new moves like it gets Wild Charge, it gets Flare Blitz, and it gets Phantom Force, so it gets an upgrade instead of Shadow Force. So Pokemon like Arceus Ghost now have a stronger physical attack. Pokemon like Arceus Fire, I don't know how much you're still going to be running Arceus Fire even with DD Flare Blitz. But basically this is just a nice solid buff to all of the other Arceus forms, which is nice because Arceus has like, what, 18 different forms and you only ever see like 3 of them. So I think that's pretty cool. Arceus's defensive sets also get some new play because it gets moves like Foul Play, it gets Taunt, it gets Healing Wish, and I threw Gunk Shot on there because I couldn't fit that into this move set. So, Arceus, a lot of buffs, good Pokemon. Moving on to Landorus. Landorus is getting absolutely fucking giga quadruple banned to Ubers this generation because it gets Nasty Plot now, and honestly, like, what else do I have to say? Meloetta, I was hesitant to put it on here, because it did get Sword Stance, but Meloetta Pirouette, like, the thing with it is that you have to use Relic Song to transform, and then you have to use SD after that. Well, I mean, you don't have to use SD after that, but realistically, you want to be using SD in your Pirouette form. And just the fact that this Pokemon really needs 2 turns to set up, I'm not too sure how fantastic that'll be. But I feel like another addition they got is Reversal. So if you want to run like a Focus Sash, like Relic Song, Sword Stance, like maybe you put them to sleep on accident with a Relic Song and then you SD, and then you get hit, brought down your Focus Sash, and then you got a really strong-ass Reversal in the back. So, not the most game-changing buffs from Meloetta, but it's something, and it's, you know, something is always good. Love to see Pokemon like Meloetta getting buffed. So, sadly, I apologize to everyone who's ever played OU, but Magearna now has spikes. So not only is it the same annoying-ass, stupid-ass bunny as it was before, but it now has spikes. But it's looking like they might, Magearna might start the generation in Ubers. At the end of this video, we will be talking about some of the new Pokemon that are potentially getting banned, and if some of the Pokemon will be brought down. But that's all I have to say for Magearna. It gets spikes now. Also, Urshifu gets Sucker Punch, or not Sucker Punch, it gets Sword Stance now, and in combination with Punching Glove, like, Punching Glove for both form boost Surging Strikes and Wicked Blow, which, like, it's a free plus 0.1, and you get the effects of what's the item of Protective Pads, which, I mean, Urshifu ran Protective Pads like anyway, so now getting Protective Pads plus you get an extra 1.1 on top of that, like, to pretty much all of your moves, like, because, I mean, you could run Close Combat, but you could also run Drain Punch, so I don't know if Punching Glove, I would assume because Sucker Punch isn't boosted by, like, Iron Fist, it wouldn't be boosted by Punching Glove. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'd assume it's not, but still, like, I'm actually interested. Does Punching Glove? It's actually interesting. So I think this means that Sucker Punch would still take like Rocky Helmet chip and stuff like that. But for the most part, Urshifu, just the fact they got Sword Stance. I know they're probably going to be starting Urshifu Single Strike in Ubers, just because he was ridiculously broken last gen. It'll probably still be broken this gen. Plus now it has Sword Stance. I'm not sure what they want to do with Rapid Strike. I guess they're going to test it in OU, because I didn't see anything otherwise. But moving on, we have Zarude. Now this set is pretty funny because this set consists entirely off of moves that it got this generation. So Sword Stance is the set of move that Zarude always needed to be useful anywhere. It also now gets Crunch, so it has a move that it's sort of a side-graded Darkest Lariat, which it looks like it might not have this generation. I'm not too sure. It might have it. But Crunch is now a little bit better because Darkest Lariat did have the effect of ignoring stat changes, but Crunch does have that that nasty 20% defense shock rate. Also now you have extremely good coverage in close combat. I mean, dark grass fighting is very good coverage. You do have Synthesis now, which is a sort of a side-graded jungle healing. I feel like it's better if you want to run it on SD sets, because jungle healing was nice because if you were previously running, like, this Pokemon ran like Bulk Up. So if you're running a Bulk Up set, jungle healing is nice because it gets the status removal effect. But Synthesis is just nice because it gets, you know, more health. And of course it still gets Power Whip, so it has a strong stab. So Zarude is actually looking pretty damn good in this gen. I think it was OU last gen? It might have been RU, I don't know. Zerd was ass last generation. But looking to be definitely significantly better than last gen, and talking about being significantly better than last gen, they literally gave Regieleki nothing except Terra Blast, and because of Terra Blast, it might be an Uber. So not only... Okay, here's the thing with Terra Blast, right? You don't even need to Terra Ice to be a threat with Regieleki, because just throwing off a random-ass 80 base power specs attack just to get that chip on ground types, like if they're coming in on a spike, and they're taking the spike damage plus just the random special 80% or 80 power Terra Blast, like that Pokemon ain't gonna want to come in on Regieleki again. So just the threat that it has a move that's stronger than Ancient Power to throw around, like even though it's a normal type, like that's still good, because you're not switching to Ghost type into this because you're getting your ass clapped by T-Bolt or Volt Switch. And of course you do have the option to Terra Ice and then just blow shit away, which might be the biggest nail in the coffin for Regieleki and OU. I'm not sure. I feel like they're gonna start it in OU. I'm not too sure if it'll be banned or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But unlike Regieleki, Regidraco got a lot more than just Terra Blast. Obviously, it does still have like the Specs Dragon Energy set. I feel like if you're going to be running Regidraco, that's still the set people are going to be running, just because Dragon Energy is so ridiculously strong. And now you still have now you have Earth Power on those spec sets, which is ridiculously good because now you can add Steel types and you can do damage to Fairy types. You might want to run like Terra Steel or something, so you can get the Steel type Terra Blast on Fairy types, and then you're a Steel type, so you just have a better or at least a different defensive profile, which will be nice. So Pokemon like Fairy, if you're getting hit with a Fairy type, it'll be better. If you're getting hit with an Ice move, you're going to resist both of those. So this Pokemon has Dragon Dance now as well. I think it might have had Dragon Dance last gen, but now it's just significantly better because it has actual coverage. Like it has Hammer Arm, it has Ice Fang, it notably has Earthquake, and then you can run like Outrage, and then you can run like Fire Fang. So this Pokemon got so many buffs, and I feel like all of them will make it better. So Regidraco is the mon to kind of look out for this generation, I feel. And then we have Spectrier, which it's... Have you ever wanted Spectrier to literally just be a slightly worse version of Calyrex Shadow Rider? Well, now it is, because you have Draining Kiss and you have Terra Blast. So Terra Blast fighting hits normal types, so you can just spam Shadow Ball. And now you have Draining Kiss, which gets you some recovery, and it's just another coverage move. So, boom, Spectrier, this Pokemon's going to be an Uber, Giga Uber. And now let's talk about the losers. There aren't too many. There used to be a lot more in this list, but now that we know which Pokemon moves are going to be returning as well, I had to remove a bunch of them from the list. So, we're going to be starting off with Mew. Originally, Mew lost like Defog and Roost, which was fucking insane for it. Like, Mew going down to RU this generation if that happened. But it did get those back, although unfortunately, well, fortunately for the sanity of everyone in the metagame, it no longer gets Cosmic Power, which is good. No more Cosmic Power Mew. Pooh! Throw party. Confetti flying all over the place. It also loses Knockoff, which is pretty detrimental to the defensive set, and it also loses Explosion, and I think yeah, it doesn't get any boom. Does it get Misty Explosion? I can't type. It also does not get Misty Explosion. So, for the offensive hazard sets, which I feel like are just outclassed by Glamora anyway, those no longer have Explosion. So, honestly, these three are pretty damn bad for Mew. Although, at least it does get Roost back and it does get Defog. So, things aren't necessarily the end of the world for Mew, although it still kind of sucks. Now, Heatran's coming back. The only thing it lost is Toxic, but losing Toxic on Heatran, like, that's a big deal, you know? Although, I feel like it's not too bad, because it allows you to run other things on your, in that move slot. Like, you're gonna run this instead, where normally this would run Toxic. Like, you can now run, like, Stealth Rock there. Or instead, you can run, like, Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp was also a very good status move on Heatran. So once again, losing Toxic is really big for Heatran, but it's not the end of the world. Cresselia also lost, like, I think it lost, like, 10 base points to its defense and special defense, which is really the biggest nerf. Like, it lost Toxic, but it didn't really run that anyway. This bulk ain't what it used to be when you're a pure Psychic type, which doesn't have Toxic. Does this get Cosmic Power? It doesn't get Cosmic Power either. It still gets Calm Mind, so that's fine. So Chris, honestly, I fucking hate this Pokemon. It's ugly, it's annoying to play as and against, so fuck you, Cresselia. I'm glad he got nerfed. Suck my dick. Moving on to Landorus T. Now that I've said that, I can't get monetized on this video anymore. Landorus T did get some insane nerfs. So Landorus T, does it, hold up. Let me quadruple check, because it got Landorus. Yes, it no longer gets defog, and it no longer gets toxic. It no longer gets explosion too. Okay. Yeah. So these are the things that not extreme evo. Yeah, it definitely does not get extreme evo boost. So these are the things that Landorus lost this generation. And if you look at these these moves, this is basically what Landorus Therian is. So it can't remove hazards anymore. Doesn't knock off, doesn't toxic, can't explosion. So basically what I think this is going to have on the metagame is that it's just going to be Scarflando. No, Scarflando is still, I feel like it's going to be good, because it's fucking like Scarflando, right? Like, Lando T isn't going to be OU or UU anytime soon. Plus it still has U-turn. And, like, this set is just basically, it's just, like, nerfed Lando. That's pretty much all it is. It's Lando T, but if you, like, made it worse. I know that's a very boring way of saying things, but it's pretty realistic, right? Like, your defensive set on Lando, you just kind of can't use it anymore. Because it doesn't have Toxic, doesn't have Knockoff. It does have U-turn still, so you can use it as a pivot. It lost Explosion, so it's not as good as the lead anymore. So I feel like the only set it really is going to want to run anymore is, like, either Sword Stance or... Sword Stance or Scarf, right? It does get Superpower back, fortunately. So I feel like this is going to be the go-to, like, Scarf set. And then it does get a slight buff with Terra Blast Flying. So if you want to run a Sword Stance set, you can run like SD, you can run Earthquake, you can run Terra Blast, and like Stone Edge, or Superpower if you want. So Lando T is still not a bad Pokemon, it's just... they nerfed this Pokemon to the ground, let's be real. Like, it fucking sucks now. Landorus, you had a good run, I'm sorry, but it's over. Anyway, now Zacian crowned. Zacian lost an entire 20 base points to its attack. I think I lost a little bit of another stat as well, but honestly, losing the attack is the biggest part. Also, its ability got nerfed, so now its attack only gets raised the first time you send it out into battle, so it doesn't get a free choice band every time it switches in ever. So, it probably won't be banned from anything else anymore. Good job, Zacian, I'm so proud of you. Now let's move on to the side grades. Alolan Muck got Drain Punch, which is good for its Assault Vest sets, because now it has a at least moderately consistent way to get back a little bit of HP, so your Assault Vest Mucks can be sticking around a little bit longer, which is good. Although, unfortunately, it did lose Shadow Sneak, and Shadow Sneak, even though on like, the Assault Vest sets, you're not using it for, like, actually strong attack damage, but what you are using it for is to get a last-minute poison touch off, like, just throw it out there, be like, please poison, and then you get the poison and you cripple the Pokemon for free. So, Alolan Muck, a little bit of a 50-50 there. Moving on to Tornadus T, it did get Bleak Wind Storm this generation, which is good because it's a more accurate alternative to Hurricane, which is notoriously inaccurate and part of the reason why Tornadus T wasn't Uber last generation. Unfortunately, it did lose Knockoff this generation, so its Assault Vest and Boots sets are going to be a little bit worse because it can no longer remove items. And then moving on to Zamazenta Crowned, it did get Iron Defense and Body Press, finally, thank God. Or it had Iron Defense last gen, but it didn't have Body Press, which was stupid as shit. But now it does have Body Press, and thank God Zamazenta can actually do something this generation. Let's go, I'm so proud of you, Zamazenta. Everybody, let's clap it up. So proud of my boy. Unfortunately, he did get a he got some stat reductions, but I'm not sure which they were. I'm gonna go back to the handy dandy spreadsheet. He lost. Okay, so the base form lost 10 base attack, and the crowned form lost 10 attack, 5 defense, and 5 special defense. I don't know why they did that way, but it doesn't matter too much because, I mean, you're running Iron Defense on this Pokemon anyway, and it's looking like this Pokemon might get started in Ubers, which is interesting. And now that we've run the list dry, let's actually talk about that. So this is Finchinator, what he posted. I'm going to quickly move this. So this is what he said was going to be his vote for where Pokemon are going to be starting. So, if we're looking real quick through, Annihilape he's looking to stay in Uber, Chi-Yu looking to stay in Uber, Espathra looking to stay in Uber, Fluttermane, Houndstone, Iron Bundle, Palafin are looking to stay in Uber, and Basculegion is looking to stay in Uber as well. So, he did say at the bottom that if both Houndstone and Basculegion get banned, that he's going to advocate for a ban of Lapras packs and allow both Pokemon, which I think will be cool, because I think Basculegion is one of the coolest new Pokemon. So we'll have to see how that plays out. An interesting one is he says he's going to vote for Chen-Pao to be OU, which is interesting. Chen-Pao is one of my new favorite Pokemon of all time, both in design and to use, so I am thankful for this. Hopefully I get to use my little scrunkly guy in OU. I'm so sorry for saying that. I'm so sorry. Landorus Incarnate looking like it's going to stay in Uber, which I feel like that's 100% going to happen, like there's no shot. Magearna looking like it's going to stay in Uber, which is honestly pretty interesting. I honestly don't know how that's going to play out, because just because of how much damn power creep there is, like Magearna's stats just aren't as good. So Magearna will be an interesting one to see what happens. Regieleki, he's going to vote for staying in OU. That'll be an interesting one to see what happens, just because of Terra Blast Ice. Spectrier going to Uber, I feel like that's going to be pretty uncontested. Urshifu Single Strike going to Uber, I feel like that'll also be pretty uncontested. But interestingly, both Zamazenta and Zamazenta Crowned in OU. That, I feel like, is definitely by far the most interesting one. I just realized I screwed up this, I'm going to have to fix this for next time I record. I definitely will remember that. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you think I'm stupid and some of these Pokemon won't matter and Landorus T is still going to be the best Pokemon in the metagame, let me know. And any other comments, let me know. Let me know if you want to see any other videos such as this, talking about the other Pokemon, and have a good one.